Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. Tonight, Tuesday Live, we'll look into 100 days in the life of the Tinubu administration's renewed hope agenda, examine its blueprint cutting across different sectors. Now, the president removed fuel subsidy, one of the most contentious issues for many years in Nigeria, rolled out palliative measures to states to cushion the hardship resulting from the subsidy removal, inaugurated his new cabinet. The president also unveiled an 8-point agenda with an extraordinary touch on key areas of the national economy, centered on education, enhanced trade and investment, employment, and revenue drive for optimal performance of all government institutions. Now, issues arising from the first 100 days of the Tinubu presidency. That's our business tonight, after this report by our correspondent, Musbah Wahab.
He sought, he got it, and said yes to the mandate. In a social contract, Bola Tinubu volunteered to fulfill the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians. The experienced administrator at sub-national level came prepared for a greater challenge with his action plan, which has been the guiding principles of his policies and programs at the center. The journey to imbue the economy with new life began almost immediately with a popular pronouncement on fuel subsidy removal.
The fresh subsidy is gone.
We even congratulated him on removal of subsidy. It's going to be better for everybody. There will be more money now to put into education, into health, infrastructure, and other areas.
Laudable as it is, that decision came with some hard consequences on Nigerians.
Can we continue to service external debts with over 90% of our revenue? It's a path to destruction. We cannot continue that. We have to make hard decisions.
But then, the seasoned accountants apparently had his calculations with responsive plans to support the most vulnerable. First in the plan was the declaration of state of emergency on food security to address all matters relating to food and water availability and affordability, while inauguration of the National Economic Council also saw the pronouncement of palliative measures to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal.
Council also agreed that all the 3 tiers of government must do certain things, must begin to be, responsive to the mood of the nation, to the sufferings of the people, and try to do something to ameliorate the impacts.
The administration also demonstrated intent to sanitize the nation's financial and business environments with the appointment of a Chief Executive Officer of the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, Jim Obazi, a special investigator, in an irony against the expectations of many Nigerians. Tinubu's administration commenced the process toward reduction of tax burden on businesses with the inauguration of Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, led by a renowned expert in tax matters, Taiwo Oyedele.
Our aim is to transform the tax system to support sustainable development, while at the same time achieving a minimum of 18% tax to GDP ratio within the next 3 years.
Consistently, President Tinubu has set his focus on exploring all means to create more wealth for the country, ready to tap economic opportunities in many sectors. This he has demonstrated with the creation of ministries of arts, culture, and creative economy, marine and blue economy, communications, innovation, and digital economy.
Private sector is encouraged with the bold decisions President Bola Tinubu has taken, and we hope that in the fullness of time, Nigerians will benefit from it.
And now, with the 45 ministers inaugurated into the Federal Executive Council, Nigerians, and indeed the world, are waiting to see how successful the current administration will be in the actual swim ahead in the next 1,360 days.
We will deliver for Nigeria.
From the State House, Musbah and Wahab.
All right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off by introducing our guests. I'd like to welcome to this program Dr. Kabir Adamu. He is a security, risk management and intelligence specialist. Thanks for joining us tonight.
It's my pleasure.
Let me also welcome, once again, this is one of our regulars. Yes, good to see you again. Ali M. Ali, political analyst and member of the APC presidential campaign. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me once again, Oga Cyril. Good evening, viewers.
Right.
It's good to be here.
Okay. Let me also introduce as one of our guests tonight, Engineer Bola Babarinde. He's past and pioneer chairman of the APC South Africa and the Tinubu Shetima Presidential Campaign Council Diaspora Directorate. He joins us from our Lagos Network Center. It's good to see you. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you very much. Well, as you are aware with this program, for those who have been following this program for all the years, at some point in time you can join in the conversation in the studio, but at that time we'll remind you of the process and the procedure as we always do. But for now, let's begin to look at it. 100 days. At some point in time, it became fashionable to examine administrations. There's a lot about the history of how this actually started, but here we are doing it. So it's 100 days of the Tinubu administration. So, gentlemen, what are your impressions on a broad spectrum?
Do I have to go?
Yes.
Okay. First off, I think it's very important to remind ourselves the circumstances within which the administration came to be. In the area that is of my expertise, which is security, the administration won the elections at a time when every Nigerian, unfortunately, was feeling the depth of the levels of insecurity within the country. One of the things that was put forward during the campaign was an agenda, as it were, to reclaim territories and then, of course, improve on security. So to that extent, a renewed hope document, manifesto, was released to Nigerians during the campaigns. That renewed hope manifesto had a 7-point agenda, which showed clearly the roadmap that the Bola Tinubu administration wanted to follow to achieve, to take care of the challenges of insecurity within the country. Perhaps in the course of the conversation, we will look at those issues one after the other. So from that period, when he was sworn in on May 29th, up until now, what we have seen is an attempt to implement that 7-point agenda. Looking at the security structure, looking at the components of security, looking at how to improve the 3 C's of security: coordination, collaboration, and coordination. He's also appointed persons who are seasoned administrators, some of them who don't have a security background, but who, by virtue of the fact that they are seasoned administrators, are able to put together a management team that would help in the implementation of that 7-point agenda. With regards to how security has fared within those 3 months, using metrics, sadly, it's not very different from what we've seen in previous times. In other words, it's too early. Within those 3 months, almost about 2,000 Nigerians have been killed within that period. And sadly, that's what we've seen in periods before now. So I think it's a little bit too early, but we're hoping that by the time the government consolidates itself, starts to implement the 7-point agenda, we may see changes in that regard.
All right, thank you very much. We'll come back to you much later, but let's go to Ali M. Ali.
Well, like you said, it's a tradition. Nobody can say for certain where it started from. But then 100 days in the life of an administration that has a arguably 4-year mandate. When you say 100 days out of 1,460, I think, when you multiply 365 days by 4, I think you get a total of 1,460 or thereabouts, something like that. So, like they say, the morning foretells the day. In 100 days, what is the impression of Nigerians? How much has the government impressed on Nigeria, or Nigerians generally, against the backdrop of what it pledged in the course of the campaign it was going to do? But 100 days is certainly not enough, but it has set the tone. First, you could see from in the last 100 days, the government is trying to come to get, if you like, an identity, which is quite difficult. But in the first month of the president's charge, when he took charge, you could see he was moving at a very frenetic speed, if you like. Because unlike his predecessor, as soon as he took charge, he changed the service dues in less than a month. And I think this is an area of expertise of my co-panelists here, which the previous administration took a while before it effected that change, giving room to a lot of laxity. One of the reasons the previous government was voted into power was because of the profile of the then commander-in-chief as a retired general, and at the time, a lot of Nigerians have been assailed by insecurity. It has ravaged the nation. In 2014, 2015, the most important decisive factor that dislodged the government of the day was insecurity that has ravaged the nation at the time. Territories were annexed, so it was very appealing that we had a retired general as the preferred candidate. Now, 8 years down the road, when you have a Tinubu who also seems to have a mastery or an understanding of the economy, and also a promise to also check insecurity. So with the formation of his cabinet now, which is quite a Herculean task, first time he's up the ante, because now an unprecedented number of ministers, I think 48 in all of them, but 45 So you could see that he has set the tone. Now it's just a matter of blending these various talents, because government now is still trying to get its identity from all these various talents put together to form the Federal Executive Council. I guess it's work in progress. As we progress, the days would also begin to see how some of the lofty goals identified, adumbrated in the Renew Hope agenda will be achieved.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's go back to our Lagos Center now, and there we have Engineer Bola Babarinde. Yes, again, it's straightforward. 100 days, some say, not enough to assess where the administration is going, but enough to see in which direction it's facing. So let's hear your impressions about the first 100 days of the Tinubu presidency.
This is my first time on NTA, and I want to tell Nigeria one thing, that our president is the most prepared of all the presidential candidates that we had in the past since 1999. He's a true Democrat. This is the first time we're having a true civilian to be our president. From OBJ to Muhammadu Buhari. And also, he happened to be the pro-democracy activist. He prepared for this job. And when you look at it, 100 days is just a small thing in the life of an administration. But he has done something that the past regime may not have done in 6 months. Because the first day of the podium, we were there in Abuja, he removed the subsidy, which I believe, if he never did it that day, it would have been a tug of war. It would have been one kind of lobbying group to, to dissuade him from doing it. So maybe he realized that, this is going to be a tall order if I don't do it right away. Nigerians, when you look at it, the removal of subsidy, the forest regime, all these things has done within 100 days. Is not easy for Nigerians. But one thing I can assure you, if we continue and we are sincere and we support him, I believe Nigeria is going to be one of the greatest in the world, not only in Africa. And also, when you look at our revenue generation, which is monolithic, only oil. It's only oil that we are using to generate, and even our tax reform. And the way it started, by appointing somebody that I believe that is close to him, and he believes he knows his pedigree, he knows what he can do in energy sector, which is, solid mineral sector, which he believes can even generate more than oil for us. A lot of things is going to happen. But all I can say is that we also in diaspora, as you introduced me, I happen to be the immediate past president of APC in South Africa, and also the Secretary General of Committee of Diaspora Chairman. We are ready to assist. We are ready to bring our expertise, because we believe we don't have any other country than Nigeria. I spent over 25 years outside the country, and it is time to give back to my fatherland. With this, we are moving forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. My impressions of the first 100 days, but we'll begin to look at some of these matters in greater detail as we look on. But easily the very first thing that took Nigerians, perhaps we might risk saying almost all Nigerians were taken aback with a sudden announcement of the withdrawal of subsidy. In fact, not many expected that a pronouncement of such magnitude was going to be made right there at the inauguration ground. And so, within minutes, the entire dynamics of both Nigeria's economy, social, political, you name it, changed with just one announcement. How do you assess that?
Incidentally, I was at the inaugural ground, the Eagle Square, when that announcement was made. And you're right, a lot of us that were together at that point were surprised by that statement. It was unexpected. Even though, as someone who has been monitoring developments, we knew that it was inevitable. As an example, there was no budgetary provision for subsidy beyond June. So we hadn't expected that it would come then, but we knew that beyond June, the possibility of the continuation of payment of subsidy was almost nil. And so putting side by side that statement, and then of course the knowledge that there was no provision for subsidy beyond June, it made a lot of sense. Whether it was planned or whether it was a president who was prepared and knew what he wanted and was ready to confront it, I think only perhaps the president himself will make that clarification. From the point of view of what I do, which is security, it precipitated a number of factors. Number one is the hardship that Nigerians have had to endure over that development. From, if you had a car that probably had about maybe like 65 liter tank, you were paying probably around 10,000. All of a sudden you'll be paying about maybe 40,000 or thereabout. So a lot of people, either their livelihoods were affected or their capacity, income to afford certain things was also affected. And that sadly
also predispose certain persons to criminal activities. And so what we saw was an increase in criminal activities around following that period. The second one is social upheaval. Organized labor, of course, organized itself, and we've seen a couple of strikes in that period. In fact, right now, as we're discussing, we're in another one. And that is having a huge toll on the economy, sadly. I'm sure the other discussants will probably talk about that from an economic point of view. But from the point of view of security, it's creating impediments to business activities. Persons, as an example, who want to do certain activities. I mean, I support business operations. There are international companies that perhaps would have wanted to come to Nigeria around this period, but their security team will advise them not to as a result of this. And sadly, the ripple effect of that is it's also affecting labor. So that's some of the consequences of that pronouncement. Was it planned? Were these things taken into consideration? What control measures, mitigation measures have been put in place to reduce the consequence of some of these actions? Again, these are things that time would tell, hoping that perhaps, when the government, especially when at that strategic level, sits down to discuss some of these policy issues and the consequences of these policy issues, there will be, mitigation measures and control measures in place to manage them. But suffice to say, we were taken by surprise by that statement when it came.
Yeah, everyone was. But Ali, it's been said that it would take a courageous leader to decide the way this was decided. After all, if you just go a little bit back to the immediate past administration, here was the former president who had presided over petroleum resources at some point in his life, who had also been a military head of state, and it was surprising he couldn't do it after he had tried so many times. In fact, close to the end of his administration, he did say, look, he changed his mind and said, look, I'm going to leave this to the incoming administration. So do you think with the new president coming in and right there, that was a demonstration of the kind of hard, if you listen to his speech in our introductory report, he said hard decisions will be taken. Did you see that as one of those hard and tough decisions that he had to do at that point in time?
Well, let me just add to what he said. The removal of force subsidy is something that was foretold, that it was just a matter of time. And the but here is, nobody saw it coming that it would be on the very first day he assumed office. In fact, in the inaugural speech, and he was very emphatic that fuel subsidy is gone. Now, as a policy statement, which was anticipated, but not that early, of course, we see the consequent effect. The announcement effect, it took its toll, and till this moment, it's still taking its toll. If you recall, two things happened on that inaugural, when he took charge. The arbitrage was abolished. The naira was allowed to float. And then the fuel subsidy gone. With that, the economy actually, which has been reeling under inflation, now the inflation became hyper. And the alternative, because with that now, because a lot of people didn't see that coming that early, the provision was that up to the end of May, there was provision for subsidy.
In fact, June, actually.
Yeah, up to June. And then suddenly, so naturally that would have. And then what was the alternative? What's the alternative to make, life a little easier for Nigerians? But you see, as it were now, people say, they make reference to the fact that the previous government had tremendous goodwill when it jacked up the price of petroleum, the liter price from, was it 97? To an unprecedented 145 naira. Nigerians say, okay, we can tolerate this, we can accommodate this, because if it was the sacrifice we needed to make, and we were prepared to, because the president then was trusted. He was trusted, the former president was trusted. Now, what does it tell you now with the new president? Also, because over China, of course, the posturing by labor, naturally, you expect the labor to be unhappy because of the spiral effect of the removal of petroleum subsidy. But till this moment, Nigerians are hopeful. They are trusting of the new government, of the new regime. And that's why till this moment, Nigerians are giving it the benefit of the doubt. Now, look at the process of fuel subsidy removal. Look at the tremendous amount of money being literally thrown down the drain. Between 2005 to 2023, according to one report, a whopping 21 trillion naira was used as subsidy. That's quite a humongous amount of money within just less than 20 years. And that could have been used to build new refineries. The argument is that because we're importing, so we have to pay the global, but oil, crude oil is native to us. Now, having said that, what are the benefits derivable from? And I think Nigerians should be focusing on that. Now, onto, again, that impact on Nigerians. A lot of Nigerians, like people have said over time, economic experts, that look, it was just a matter of time. The subsidy regime cannot be sustained. Cannot be sustained because it's unrealistic given the challenges the oil industry as a whole is facing. So yes, it took a lot of Nigerians by surprise. But the president has talked to his guns and then ruling out the palliatives now. And this is where I think some people say it should have been the palliatives first, then, because in third world countries, Nigeria, no exception, public transport is largely privately owned. And people still rely on their vehicles to move from point A to point B. In more developed economies, you have several alternatives. You have the subway. In the US, they call it subway underground. In the UK, you have the trams, you have public buses. But here, look at our public transport. It's actually it's still, I mean, in dire stress because of for obvious reasons. Poor roads network. Until recently, the previous government has done a great amount of work trying to link the various states, component units of the federation. So I would say with the palliatives now being put in place, one of which is that the federal government is actually looking at alternative means of energy, CNG for it, compressed natural gas. The government is looking in the direction of as much as, I think, over 11,000 buses converted to rely on CNG for energy, which is an alternative to fuel. A lot of people are making that migration now. You see, it has started in our homes already. People are moving away from fossil fuel, from petroleum powered generators to gas powered generators. You see that gradual transition. Nigerians are looking for alternatives. When electricity tariff went up, Nigerians are looking, those who can afford it, to renewable energy, green energy. It's a lot cheaper and costs a lot less. So Nigerians, ever the geniuses that we are, because they say Nigerians will have this inelastic capacity to improvise on any situation, for good or for bad, but mostly for good. So Nigerians are looking for alternatives. But meanwhile, with the palliatives being rolled out now, I see light at the end of the dark tunnel. Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Back to NTA Babarinde in Lagos. You did mention the removal of fuel subsidy in your opening comments, and you admitted as much as that it comes with some issues. But looking at it across board, that also impacted on other aspects of national life, not the least transportation, inflation, and as Dr. Kabir Adamu mentioned here earlier on, the spiraling effects, an increase in the rate of crimes, because some people lost out in certain things, and it was easy to now find the criminally minded trying to look for a way to make the ends meet. With the rolling out of palliatives, do you see this as a concerted effort to address palliatives, by the way, as everyone has agreed, are just stopgaps, and this can't go on for long. But for the measures that have been ruled out, do you see them as a precursor to the more entrenched long-term solutions to the crises that have erupted from the removal of fuel subsidy?
Siri, you know, there's nowhere in the world that subsidy is not being given to the citizen. Yes, there are a lot of wastages, a lot of fraud in the subsidy regime in Nigeria. But if actually we have good, because I'm into IT and training as well, although I'm a civil engineer, but if we have been thorough, we have managed our system very well in such a way that we introduce a lot of IT system. We have national ID that is working. We know the number of people in Nigeria, because I still believe that we are not sure of our population. It's a guesswork. Our Bureau of Statistics is doing their work so that we know the number, the population of the youth, the population of the aged people, the population of the female, we have our data, but we don't have that. And when we even talk of the subsidy, the amount of money we spend on subsidy, a lot of fraud in it. And I'm sure that was why the man decided to remove first day, because there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. He wouldn't have done it. He would not be able to do it by now, because they'll be fine, they'll be giving a lot of excuses. Yes, he has done it. Good. But I always tell people from beginning that the salary of Nigerians is slavery. We are not giving our people enough salary. That is basic. We know that. Because how can somebody, even without subsidy removal, how can somebody live on 30,000? It doesn't make sense. And if we do that, we improve the salary, then also we introduce the credit system. Because I want to buy a house, I need to save. How long, if I'm really living on 50,000, even 100,000, even 200,000, when am I going to build a house? It's going to be, eternity. But if we have credit system that works, that my children can get a student loan if I can't afford it, I can take a loan to buy a car on installment. I can also get mortgage system that works. With my little salary, I know all these things can be. We reduce the amount of corruption in the system. One thing that I'm sure that is going to happen is that palliative that's on ground now is good, and it's going to be temporal. But the way I'm saying it, the palliative is not being managed very well. And it may not be the fault of the government, but because we don't have enough data, we don't have enough system to manage the palliative very well. Because I say they give people, about 10 people will share a bag of rice. What can you use that one for? And the way it is, somebody can collect a bag of rice now and go back and collect another bag of rice. So there's no system in place. But I'm not blaming the present government, but as soon as possible, before it gets out of hand, the government must do something for people of Nigeria. Because there's a level of tolerance, there's a level that they will accept this shock. When it gets to a stage, they will react. I'm an APC member. I'm saying the truth. Because people are not happy. the palliative, the way they are handling it is not good enough. They should seek for the advice of people like us from outside in the IT system, where we can put things in place that you cannot collect twice, and you collect what is due to you. You will know people what they need, their need, and also from our way of life before. Some of us, we overindulge ourselves. You have 5 cars, 6 cars, even 3 cars, in your house. A wife, a husband with 2 kids, they are having 3 or 4 cars. We remove our subsidy, I'm sure some of them will sell their car off because we overindulge ourselves. That one is there. But he has done the right thing. But fast and quick, they must do something to even this palliative that is temporal must be done properly. It's not being done properly. We have to be fair to us, to Nigerians. And they must do it, they must act fast to make sure that they seek for the ideas from people. They have seen it outside, they know how it can be managed properly. Because sometimes, there was a time I saw on the television that they were throwing palliative to people, one local government somewhere. What kind of thing is that? It has to be managed properly. The subsidy has gone, but also, I want to tell people that there's no way in the world that there's no one way of giving subsidy to people, to their people. Even in Canada, there is a subsidy on electricity at a certain time. In South Africa, where I live for over 23 years, there are people under certain category of income earning, which is very low. They give them about 50 units of electricity free. They credit them every month. So people manage that 50. I'll just buy a little like 10, because they don't have, some of them may not even have television and all this stuff, So we have to look into that as well, that subsidy must come one way or the other, but must go directly to the people that need it. Before now, they claim a lot of subsidy, that we are being spent. We subsidize for Cameroon, we subsidize for Nigeria, we subsidize for Republic of Benin. That's corruption. But the IT system can also bring this on board, can also let us know. When we know our population, we know the number of cars in the country, we know the number of households, we know, if we have this IT system in place that give us enough data about our people, the corruption will be limited. It cannot be eradicated. There's corruption everywhere, but it will be, reduced drastically. But I pray the government, and I know, he listen. And the beauty of it is that Asiwaju has done something that no former president has ever done before. Because we notice that when our government in Nigeria, they decide on something and they do it, you can shout it tomorrow, they will not rescind that decision. He has done twice now. The issue of NDDC, when the people said, this guy is not in line with the APC policy, how can he be working for you? We're going to work against you. He listened, he removed him. And one other thing happened the other time. So it's a listening person. What we are saying tonight, I'm sure some people will be listening and say, okay, you say you can do this. Yeah, do it for us. That's the only way we can move forward. Thank you.
And back here in Abuja, well, Kabir, if you listen to what Engineer Babaride said, he's harped a lot on the matter of data. This, I know, is also key to your area of specialization. You have no idea what your actual population is. In fact, Nigeria was preparing to hold a population census just before that, and there were too many things at stake that had to be put off. But even there was never a conclusive agreement over what Nigeria consumed in terms of even the petroleum products. There were, all kinds of figures flying around, and no one could say for sure that this was it. And that also has its impact on so many aspects, including the question of a living wage. he talked about the 30,000, barely enough. And in these circumstances, it would even be tougher to manage on that. That also has a bearing, poor income, on security. The palliatives have been ruled out, but again, there's a lot that needs to be done about them. There are some parts who are angered, who feel, oh, these palliatives are not coming quickly enough, or they are only trickling, or they are, just a drop in the ocean. And this has inflamed passions as well. Let's look at it from that premise and what can be done from rolling out more palliatives. Some states have already started giving out. Others are yet to get on with it. And I hear from a few states, citizens are screaming out and say, look, we know you have received, so why are you holding them?
No, there are so many issues involved. But I mean, let me play the devil's advocate here. And I think I'm wearing the cap where I'm allowed to. The immediate past administration and this administration are in one and the same party. And so it was expected, and that's exactly what happened. The past administration did put up a transition council, and that transition council worked extensively. If I remember well, submitted a report, compendium of quote-unquote policies to this incoming administration. Point I'm trying to make is there is enough resources, as it were, to allow this administration to take off. And in certain areas, we have seen that occurring. In other areas, there is room for improvement. In the issue of data, it featured prominently within the Renewed Hope manifesto. In fact, one of the priority components of that document, first off, that document has now translated into sets of policies, as it were. The harmonization of existing data, that is what this government is going to do. And there is no sector that will not benefit from that. And I'm quite delighted to see that the president is actually, acting on that promise as contained in the Renewed Hope agenda. Just yesterday, he had a meeting with, I think, Deliot, one of the internationally renowned companies. And the objective of that meeting was on data. Apart from that, he set for his ministers a tasking order for the completion of that promise, the harmonization of data. So I wouldn't want to pick just the palliatives to discuss the point. It's something that would cut across everything, including security. And I'll quickly just talk about it. One of the things that I've severally mentioned is the need to introduce metrics into security. You want to know, as an example, when you appointed a minister, when you appointed the IGP of police, how many kidnappings were occurring in the country within that period. So that by the time you are assessing his performance, you are not doing it on the basis of his name, on the basis of his affiliation to certain persons, the party as an example. You are doing it on the basis of his ability to either improve or reduce on that particular issue that you've appointed him to. That is what metrics will do to us. So I'm hoping that this particular component that as contained in the Renewed Hope agenda is actually implemented. It would have a huge effect on the Nigerian state. In today's world, data, as they say, rules the world. If you have knowledge and the capacity as well as capability to understand, to use, to manage data, it gives you an edge. You are able to plan, you are able to carry out policies, you are able to monitor the implementation of that policies. So I think it's a huge step, and I would encourage the government to go about ensuring that all components of the state, the economy, security, name it, embraces data. Again, it's absolutely important that in whatever we do, we invest in our people. All of these things that we're discussing, if we do not have the people to actually understand it and implement it, it will be extremely difficult. And I say this with all sense of responsibility. The average civil servant would find it a little bit difficult to even understand what we're discussing. So we need to look at our schools, universities, other schools, in fact, even from primary school. How do we start looking at the curriculum of those schools and ensuring that what we want to achieve starts from that level, so that by the time a student, as it were, graduates, he or she on those soft skill sets that are required for him to appreciate and use data, he already has it. If he's employed within the civil service, it's easy for him to support what the government is doing. It's not something that will drop from the sky. We need to invest in the capacity and capability of our students to...
Well, at this point, let's introduce another participant in today's program, and we'd like to welcome Professor Ken Ife, a development economist who's linking up with us on this discussion. He joins us via Zoom from London. Professor Ken Ife, good to see you tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Right. Of course, we're looking at the first 100 days of the Tinubu presidency, the steps he's taking, the kind of impacts. So far, we've talked about the security, we've talked about the removal of fuel subsidy, which came on day one of his administration, and the effects of that. And of course, we would be looking up to you now to give us from the economic angle. Yes, palliatives have been ruled out, but that single step, and of course the question of the harmonization of the exchange rate, over a few weeks, a lot of things have also happened to the economy. But in 100 days so far, what direction would you say the Tinubu administration is heading with some of its policies, particularly with regards to the economy?
Well, I would say with every degree of certainty that the economy is in the right direction, without a doubt. And the strength of what has been achieved far outweigh the weaknesses that you can perceive. But having said that, I have to also say that it's good to see the other side of the coin, because this is still APC government, and to experience a different style of leadership, which is hands-on and is courageous, is combatant. Whatever will happen tomorrow, let it happen today. In fact, with gloves in hand, if you want to fight, let's go to the highway. So it's that kind of bring it on if you want to fight. So it's not deferring any decision. You know that decision is being taken by the man at the top. So there's absolutely no doubt about it. And he listens and acts on whatever information that is there. So it's not a passive thing. It's active and hands-on. Okay, look at what happened on the first day. The first day was, it just came to the intersection of monetary policy and fiscal policy. And then, we've been talking about this removal of subsidy. Everybody seems to agree that it has to happen. We all have our reservations, but he doesn't want to hear any more about it. Even in this speech, it was removed. It wasn't advised. He still said it because he's had enough of it. So that's what I said. Whatever will happen tomorrow, he wanted to happen today. Then the Forex, I called it convergence. I don't call it harmonization, because the thing is that as long as you have 41 items on the code end of the black market, so long will you still see it is a convergence that is going on. But because you have to focus more attention on the supply side of Forex, which is what I've been saying all the time, you have to focus more attention, because anything about price, whether it is inflation or MPR or Forex, anything about price, you have to look at demand and supply. It's always about equilibrium price, the point of resolution of demand and supply. So if you continue to hammer on demand and forget to do a lot more work on supply, what you're just going to have is, yes, there is a bit of convergence initially, because of the impact of speculation, thinking that a lot more dollar will come in by subsidy from the forex, from the reserve and all of that. And then after a little while, it starts widening, the gap starts widening, but all of them will be heading down in one direction, the obvious direction that is diving down. So unless you address the supply side of the forex, that's what you're just going to experience. You can, that's what, but it's different from previous experiences of previous administrations, not the APC administration, where you are managing poverty. Here, I can see a serious attempt to actually create and manage wealth. So, but on balance, in the 100 days is too short to actually even measure the measures that are currently in place. So we need to give them a bit more time. But are you ruffling the feathers? He doesn't even care. He ruffles the feathers and more feathers and is ready to fight. So I think on that score, we can say, let's give it a chance. Okay, for example, I keep on saying that we need to tame NNPC in a direction of growth and in a direction of more responsibility. For him, just brought them in and said, look, I want the dollars. Where are the dollars? Boom, $3.3 billion have come out from somewhere. Yes? Don't forget, from 2014, NNPC was remitting $3 billion to central bank every month. And that now made central bank able to meet this obligation. Central bank needs $1.8 billion every month. It can't get it. So after all this screaming, they now started doing $300 million to central bank. This is because the NNPC, what they did was they did a crude swap with foreign refiners, pushing out all the crude and then receiving a PMS in return, and then turned around and said to government, you know what, you are owing me. There's another recovery. Go and borrow 500 billion naira every month. And people don't know how to deal with this, but in fact, he has put his finger on it. And so you're going to see more change and more traction in that area. Then you come to the fiscal side. He removed the subsidy, of course. And then you know why I felt that more work needed to have been done before the removal. But you have to excuse the fact that it's tired. Everybody is enough. Let's go and sort it out all at once. So I expected again that within a month of doing this, we would have come to terms, but we haven't. But they're talking. But the fact of the matter is that that decision can no longer be postponed. And but then where do we go from here? We will come to a resolution somewhere, but at least for now we have had some savings. It says about 1.5 trillion. Yeah, it will go more to 2 trillion. And then there you can actually see money, where your source of the money that you are going to bring to begin to deal with, not just palliative, but a radical difference in the approach. It says, I want to create that wealth, and then you come and tax the wealth, rather than tax me out of existence. But for example, he looked at the Finance Act and pushed it aside and said, push it forward so that I can deal with the issue. You cannot kill the golden goose that lays the egg. So that's why he says, no, this 5% excise tax on ICT, put it away. So you have the presidential orders that are going to put their finger on, look, don't kill the industries. We're all looking for how to revive and support this industry, and you want to impose more excise tax on the industries. So he's slowing those down so that we can come to terms with how we want to move forward. So I can see some of those as very, very positive. He also looked at FROC. This is the FRA 2007, which deals with transparency, accountability, and prudence in government, and said, where is your account? The NNPC, not the NNPC. CBN published their account since 2015. So we're at least now we are having a look, and everybody is the height of transparency. So it's good that we are having a look into that. Then I hear the government and hear the minister say, oh, we're not going to do any more borrowing, at least for now. And if you are going to, then I want to see the cost-benefit analysis. Show me the numbers. Now show me that this number adds up, that whatever you take can be retired by virtue of the... So that is positive. But I've been screaming for years, can we see the cost-benefit analysis? I want to know that we are fully complying with the law, because the law, FRA 2007, is very, very explicit. It says you can only borrow for capital expenditure and human resource development. And we know that that is about health, education, and employment. But we are struggling with that. And then the Finance Act tried to modify that and then push it out a bit and says, well, other things of national interest. And I fight on that, but that's what we're here. But now you're having a turnaround, say, show me the numbers. And that's very important, so that we have more responsible borrowing in the context of that. And then also warn financial institutions that any lending outside this framework is unlawful. So the government is coming to it and putting their fingers on the burning issues that we have to deal with. So I think on that score, I would say we are going to see more interesting times ahead.
Okay.
But it's definitely in the right direction.
Okay. More interesting times, you say. Some would say, going by even the president's own words, hard decisions or tougher times ahead. But it's expected that these will ease in the coming months. We have a report on this matter. This report is coming in from Lagos.
It has been an unprecedented series of non-stop activities at the highest level of government since May 29, when President Bola Tinubu assumed office. The president immediately demonstrated his determination to take bold decisions with the removal of fuel subsidy. This proactive step, many observers believe, saved the nation from plunging into financial crisis with the unsustainability of fuel subsidy.
The Bola Tinubu's presidency has been charting a strategic roadmap for economic revival and regeneration.
The ministers, they have started, they are manning their respective ministries now. So we want to see effect, we want to see results. For example, we want the president to take pragmatic steps in repairing refineries that we have in this country.
The creation of new ministries and remodification of some others, stakeholders believe, is an indication that the current administration is thinking outside the box.
Nigerians expect a lot from this ministry. We must not fail them. We must increase our contributions to the country's GDP. We have identified some of the low-hanging fruits that will make an immediate impact. We shall vigorously pursue them. I'm in a hurry to make an impact.
I am excited that the president at this time has deemed it fit to create the ministry for creative economy, the creative industry. It is beginning of focus so that we can harness the potential of this creative sector. Nigeria is hugely talented and the potential is big.
The administration in the last 100 days, according to respondents, has also demonstrated that it is humane with the rollout of palliatives to mitigate the impact of the subsidy removal.
Palliatives, since you said you've seen people get, I'm glad for them that they got. My prayer is that it to be sustained.
They should do in such a way that when you are showing a palliative, it should get to everybody.
While respondents are on the same page that there is still much to be done, they enjoin the president to ensure the dividends of democracy trickles down to the grassroots through proper monitoring of the disbursement. In Lagos, Joel Bukbola.
All right, at this point, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll look at other issues bordering on the 100 days of the Tinubu administration. And in that segment, we'll open the phone lines and you can get to join in the discussion. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. It's all about 100 days of the Tinubu administration. This segment, of course, the phone lines will be open. The numbers will be on your screen. We advise you to take advantage of those numbers and call in with your views on the first 100 days. We say this every Tuesday. If you're calling in tonight and your call gets through, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. I would also like to encourage you to go straight to the point. Keep it short and simple so others can get on the platform and air their views. And, we note this as well. Don't bother too much about the greetings. A simple hello would do. So keep those calls coming through, and let's see what you think about the first 100 days of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Ali M. Ali, we'll come back to you. Professor Kenife has raised a number of issues, and he believes all this is for the greater good. But I want us to look at this now from a political point of view. Nigerians are in a hurry, and rightfully so. It's been tough, one bitter pill after another. How much time do you think would this administration have to tackle head-on some of the salient issues? Now, this is away from the part of palliatives, which by itself is just temporary. So, do you see that determination going from what has happened in 100 days? And indeed, the patience, the resilience about the people that you talked about is worth it. As they say, the cliche, light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Well, I see that happening in the long term, but it's consistency. That's the thing that would make the difference. Like what's happening in Lagos now. Some of the vision the present commander-in-chief had in Lagos as governor of Lagos is only years later, with consistency, with successful administration, which he influenced, emerged. Some of his vision now is being coming to fruition. How he managed to change the fortunes of Lagos State. We can't take that away. He set, in a way, the tone of development for a modern, well, Lagos was fairly developed before 1999. But when he came in, he set the tone, one of which is to lay the foundation for a modern mega city, including hand-picking successors who realized that vision. The metro, which just came into business 3 days ago, which has been conceived more than 40 years ago, but did not, it outlived his administration. But because of his influence, managing to pick successors that would realize that vision. So I see the challenges from political point of view. No quick fix for the solutions. It has to be the hard, tortuous road to full, if you like, economic and social recovery. Now, really, if you look at it, 4 years in the life of a nation, 4-year mandate, renewable at the end of, by citizen. After 4 years, you step aside. If you're constitutionally allowed to go for a second time, if the citizen re-employ you, then you have 8 years. 8 years in the life of a nation is actually like a drop in the ocean. It took some of the great economies years of planning, dedication, determination, before they could get to where they are. Until recently, up to the 1960s. Look at, for example, as recently as 1980s, UAE, that is being celebrated now, was a semi-arid, actually it was a desert, more or less. Nigeria was far ahead in the 80s, ahead of some of these economies of the Middle East. If you look at, but what happened in between that time and now? Well, people point out the usual suspects. Some even blame military rule, forgetting at the point that actually it was military rule that set the tone of industrial Nigeria post-Civil War under Gawan. Most of the industries that later followed were actually established by the military on that one.
Including the refineries, of course.
Including the refineries, incidentally. But over years, mismanagement. So the Tinubu administration now is in the position, is better placed, given his private sector experience, and given the array of talent now assembled in the Federal Executive Council. So,
all right, we have our first caller on the line tonight. It's Ilyasu who's calling in from Niger State. Ilyasu, go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
I want to commend the participants.
Yes, go on. Yes, Ilyasu, are you there? All right, okay. Well, we'll have to return to the phones much later to get in a few more calls as they're coming in. Let me also remind those calling in, as we said earlier, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid a hurlback, so we don't get that echo. Okay, so while the calls, we are with the calls coming through, let's go back to Lagos again, and Engineer Bola Babarinde, you listened to Professor Ken Ife, who joined us from London. Okay, just before we, okay, let's take Kevin from Akwa Ibom, and then we'll return to Engineer Babarinde. Hello, Kevin. Kevin from Akwa Ibom, are you there?
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, I'm there, I'm live.
Yes.
Well, I just want to say a little thing about the 100 days of President Tinubu administration. It's very, very wonderful.
Okay.
Although many people will talk bad about him, but I really give a kudos to him. Because a minimum step, no my journey started with a single step. He took a bold step to change Nigeria, and I believe that definitely he will change Nigeria. Although I'm related to our Senate President, and I love the administration, everything they are doing, if you look at it, at the statistics, you will know that the great vision of it is coming to Nigeria. Let us join hands with President Tinubu, and we will succeed Nigeria. Nigeria is a place that we were born in, and it's our home. And definitely, you will achieve the greater part of it together. That's all I can say.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Good. Okay. So let's go back to Lagos and Engineer Babarinde. We were talking about a few of the steps that have been taken, some executive orders which the President signed in his first 100 days, and how they have impacted on things happening. And that's where we want you to comment on.
We cannot see the impact yet, but it's a gradual process. We are talking of 100 days in the life of an administration. But I still want to comment on the issue of ID system for Nigeria. Harmonization of all these BVN that are only for the bank, national ID, some other things, passport number when you go to the bank to open, they will ask, do you have NIN or BVN or, So I think we need to harmonize our, identification system to one, so that we have one, and whoever that wants to travel will have the passport. Now, the issue of the forex that they hawk outside, maybe in Africa, but most countries that are even developing, you don't sell your currency as if you are selling a banana on the street. But if we have enough, data system, and we manage ourselves in such a way that when, like for example in South Africa, you have certain amount of money you are entitled to forex, you are entitled to, in a year. And as we are taking it, all the bureau de change, all this bank, they have your ID. If you take 2,000 today, they record it against you. there'll be less of corruption, in that system. They'll be able to control how the people manipulate the system, because people just on the street sell your currency. Now, another thing I want to mention about, to let Nigeria, because many Nigerians don't really know what is going on. Because sometimes I ask myself, what's the work of National Orientation Agency? What are they really doing? Because so many things. Take, for example, take somebody that want to cross a highway when there's a pedestrian bridge. Vehicle, driver facing oncoming vehicle, driving on one way. So many things that the National Orientation Agency need to, to come on board and let Nigerians see. And even the policy of the government, how people should be able to at least, relax, have belief in the system, and know that this thing will work eventually. Then on the area of employment, I believe all the ministry, especially Ministry of Sport, Ministry of Sport supposed to, I don't even think they should supposed to be giving them suspension, giving them money. They're supposed to generate and give government money and employ. Imagine in those days when we were young, we have the inter-house sport in secondary school, Nepoga, Noga games, and we have a lot of talent. Now, young people, we watch Arsenal and Man U, Premier League, they watch Italian League, they watch Spanish League. Nobody watch Nigerian League anymore. What is the ministers doing? This is the area where they can improve, and the young people, the talents that are wasting, can be harnessed and give employment. Less bandits, less criminal activities. But I thank the president for what he has done.
While, because we have a caller waiting on the line. This is Umar Anache calling in from Birnin Kebbi. Hello, Umar. It's been a while you haven't called in. It's good to hear you calling in tonight.
It's been a while as a result of electricity problem. Good evening, gentlemen. And there is no lady among you.
No.
Zero, we the masses are suffering from this administration. Already, Bola Ahmed Tinubu say he's going to start from where former president stopped. To us, it's a suffering. We suffer from former administration. For Tinubu to say he's going to start from where he stopped, our suffering continues. That is how we interpret it. Then, about the issue of palliative, look at it this way. 1,000 good promises, good intention, single action is better than them. It's better than all those 1,000 good intentions, good promises. He said he's going to provide palliative. Up to this moment, I don't have statistics for now, but I know the Plateau State government, he said he received 2 billion out of 5 billion. I don't know which state received 5 billion naira today. To date, which governor boasts of receiving 5 billion naira? Other people, other governors say they have received, but it is not enough. It is not that 5 billion naira. Just like that of Plateau State. He said he received 2 billion naira to date. So I don't know what type of government are we practicing. We are really practicing democracy, or we are practicing civil rule. This is civil rule. Or honestly, if it is a democracy, it's a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And the people say, please, Tinubu, return the subsidy. Removal of subsidy is killing the masses. May God continue to bless our country. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Umar Anache. Well, let's return to Lagos, where Engineer Babarindi was about making a point. Yes.
Thank you very much, Sherry. As I was saying, the man from Jos just spoken. Enough of the state government waiting like beggars to take things from the federal government. They should also think how they can generate. As I was trying to say before the cutoff, that in Dubai, for example, United Arab Emirates, most of their ministries, they generate their funds. Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Internal Affairs, Sport Ministry, especially Sport Ministry, they can generate a lot of funds for themselves. Enough of waiting for the federal government in harms. Every month they go and collect, they're not going to generate a lot of things they can do themselves. Also, although we need to practice real federalism where you can, the state may be able to control certain resources and part of the thing given back to the federal government instead of federal government having all this stuff. And the state also must let the local government, strive. They shouldn't starve them of their fund. And for example, in the area of art and culture, the youngsters now, our music is worldwide. We can generate a lot of funds from here. Our economy must be diversified. We should move away from monolithic economy. We must move away from only oil. The solid mineral is there, the art and culture is there, the sport is there, tourism is there. We should focus on that. Definitely, we're on the right direction, but we have to move it fast. On the palliative again, and coming back to palliative again, we must do the right thing. What we are giving the people, the way I've moved around more than 5 states, it's not enough. It's like a drop in the ocean. And it may not be their fault because of lack of data. We must start to work on our data. We must find a way to work on the data in such a way that the game they are playing with our forex, where people in those days, where people will have access to unnecessary amount of fund individually, and a level pay grant according to the president that come in terms of business is going to make it a level pay grant. All this idea of enjoy monopoly of cement, enjoy monopoly of diesel, enjoy monopoly of whatever, should stop. Everybody must have enough opportunity to strive, and we must encourage production, because if we produce, we are going to have enough USD, foreign exchange. If it's on demand alone, we continue to demand for forex, and we are not getting forex for what we are doing. We are going to go back to the square one. So we need to focus on our manufacturing. We need to focus on local ideas. We need to encourage our engineers locally, and also the construction we are doing. We go and bring only Baja and other unknown, we call them experts, where our engineers are there to do this locally. We need to encourage ourselves, because some of the foreign exchange we give out to the technicians from outside, they call themselves engineers when they come to Nigeria. We should encourage our local engineers so that we at least save a lot of foreign exchange for us.
Okay, well, we have another caller. Pullman is calling in from Imo. I hope I'm correct with that name. Hello, Pullman. Is that your name?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, go ahead. Go right ahead, please.
Yes. Yeah, good evening. Good evening. I'm calling from Libreville, Gabon.
Oh, you're calling from Libreville, Gabon.
Yeah.
Right, go ahead.
I'm interested on this Tuesday program, Tuesday Live.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm interested on this program.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, please, sir. What is happening in that this country being Nigeria? Because we are in abroad. we see what is happening in other countries, and other countries, they are doing their things normal, correct. Why Nigeria is turning around back and front without, and they are doing it like they are doing the huge something. They are giving palliative rice, one and a half cup for all Nigerians. It's too bad. We didn't have light. We didn't have water. We didn't have road. Why government cannot take that palliative money to build light from all Nigerians? Eh? How can them troubling us in television, talking, nothing only but to share rice, to share rice. Why we didn't have light? Go to Imo State, there's no light, there's no road.
All right, Pullman. Thanks for calling in. Just as we say thank you, we know there are concerns about the situation in Gabon. Recent events there, and since you say you are in Libreville, calling in a Nigerian who is in Gabon, there are concerns about the situation in Gabon. The AU has ruled that there must be constitutionality in that country, and as tough as things are here, Nigeria still has a democracy in place, and which is what everyone is saying should be the situation in Gabon. But anyhow, thanks for calling in, and please stay safe, and we hope you can call in again. Right, we have another caller on the line. Calling Jafar from Gombe, calling in. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
How are you?
Yes, just go ahead, please.
Happy to have you. Yes, my contribution is that I want to speak my mind, not somebody's mind.
Right.
Yes, Baba Tinubu is doing his best, and I'm sure that if he continues like this, many things will change. I believe that there's no nation that move forward without suffering. People are complaining of this suffering. What my afraid about this suffering is that we should not have our money suffer for some people to enjoy. But if this suffering will make this country to go forward, I personally supporting this administration 100%. We pray that this administration will sustain the good work they are doing. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Okay. All right, Professor Kenife in London, let's come to you. And we've been talking about generation, increasing the revenue base. And of course, you mentioned that one of the good things is that there should be no borrowing at this point in time. How strategic do you think the move to create a Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy is? And how will that help to improve Nigeria's financial base?
It will do a lot. For example, there are two things that are really missing. One, we needed to have an aviation hub, both Lagos and Abuja. Two, we needed to have a maritime hub, which is Lagos. And you need somebody to carry that vision forward. If you look at Africa is like a shotgun, and the trigger is Lagos. So, pointing out to Senegal. So that is the Seme-border is the hottest and the most vibrant cross-border across Africa, in Africa. So we have all the trappings. It's not just being the largest economy, we have all the trappings for a hub there. And I know so many occasions I've spoken about this hub, the maritime hub, from the point of view of the economies of the whole of, if you look at India, China, Hong Kong, all those Southwest Asians, the nearest hub to them, cheapest for shipping purposes, is the Horn of Africa. That's Mombasa and that Florida. Then for Nigeria, Africa, all the things from US, Japan, not US, Europe, and Brazil, all of those areas, Nigeria is the cheapest. So if you look at transport hubs, goods will arrive there at 2,500 and then go back at zero, only 500, and then it will. When I did the maths, to show that when you have a link between the rail link or a road link between Mombasa and Lagos, you will cut out $1,000 in every container. You don't have to go around to South Africa and all of that. So it's a very important one. And not because you have to talk about blue economy, you have to look at what is going on with the fishing industry. Nigeria imports 2 million metric tons, about 2 million metric tons, 1.7 to 2 million metric tons of fish. We only put, our demand is 2.4 million metric tons of fish. We only produce 700,000 metric tons. So we have to look at that. China has the biggest network of trawlers all over the world. But even then, their capture fishery is only 1/4 of the aquaculture. So, there's a lot of mileage there. But I want to draw your attention to something. When you consider leaderships, the quality of leaderships, of our political leaderships, consider it in the context of the political economy. And if you come to the economy, you look at stagflation. Now, in the political economy, apart from balkanization of Africa, 1884, and then the slavery and all that, what now replaced them was an international division of labor, which says Africans, you are endowed, but you must be the producer of raw materials, and those of us in the West will process them and bring it back to you. Every leader has been fighting against it. They don't understand. Some of them don't even, 3 leaders. Some want to make things happen. Some don't even know what has happened. Some are just watching things happen. I think Bola is in that region where they want to make things happen. He just says it. He said, I'm going to take on the political economy of this country and then force a change. He wants to belong to that class. And so we have to understand how that will unravel. Secondly, most economies in the world, all the central banks all over the world, they are used to inflation. They know how to fight recession. They know how to handle inflation. But they don't know how to handle stagflation, which is where inflation is going up, prices are going up, and then you have the economy moving in the other direction. So now it's a big learning curve for all countries, all the central banks in the world. We are not an exception. So when you hear people advising Nigeria to look the other way, when you should be looking at employment, which is a disgraceful figures for unemployment, and then you're looking at growth being sacrificed, and there's so many parameters you look at, and you wonder whether we are okay to say, forget this, and then follow some fictitious model that hasn't actually proved themselves. So there are many things that we have to juggle to be able to come to the middle of the road in terms of this policy mix.
Let me ask you to hold on a while as we take this caller who's been waiting for quite some time. We'll return to you in just a moment. But Kevin is calling back from Akwa Ibom. He called earlier on and couldn't quite get that link through. Kevin? Yes. Hello, you're on. Go ahead.
All right. Once again, thank you for connecting me back. All right. I want to talk on one point in terms of the subsidy you are really talking about. If we should look deeply into this matter, we should not compare our country to other countries. If the administration, in the space of 100 days, you have an outstanding thing you want to change, we should support our president. Because if you want to compare our country, check the years of other countries you want to compare our country to. Check how, when they were in our age, how they are developing, economic aspect of them were. Nigeria is really trying. Tinubu administration for the past 100 years is really trying. It's really going to change very fast. It's just for us to support him. He cannot do it on his own without us giving him that backup. We should back up him and support him. Okay. Nigeria is our home. It's where we are from, and it would be great if we should support any administration that comes in. Not for us to criticize and start comparing ourselves with other countries, which we should read back how they were when they were of our age.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Prof, let's get back to you. Sorry, I had to ask you to hold on.
That's yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. What I'm trying to say is this. As long as we have an import-dependent economy, which places our economy on the transmission belt of global economic headwinds. Anything that is global, it doesn't have to be, it could be health, it could be mortgage crisis in America, it could be a war in Ukraine. Anything that is global will affect Nigerian economy.
Okay.
Because we are import dependent. So we're going to get out of that. It requires courage, it requires vision, and a cocktail of measures to address what is emasculated by the political economy of our country. So I get very encouraged when I hear a minister say, oh, we're going to put a block on this borrowing thing. Let's show me the numbers. I get encouraged when a president says, all right, I'm ready to fight. This political economy, I want to deal with it. I get encouraged. In fact, you see signs of, you'll be more confident of the political and economic future of your country when you see the leaders that say, I want to deal with this. I'm now aware of this. I'm going to use all the tools at my disposal to fight it. But you have to see a clear vision. So I think we're talking about something different here. If you look at financial inclusion is very important. You have to deepen financial inclusion so that when you have transmissibility of monetary policy cannot transmit if over 40% of your people are not even in the banking sector. When say 80% of your currency are not even in the banking sector, you have serious challenges. So everybody will be shouting on central bank, do this. It hasn't got the transmissibility of the policy. So there are things that we need to drill down on if we're going to have a chance of moving our economy forward.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let me quickly go back to Lagos. There was a point I wanted to raise with Engineer Bola Babarinde. Since you started off talking a lot about IT and data, I'd just like to ask your opinion. What do you make of the National Identity Management Commission, NIMSI, now under the Interior Ministry, away from communications?
I think it's the right decision because all the ministries should work hand in hand. They work together. If they need the expertise in the ICT, they can go to Communication and Innovation Ministry. But the national identity is supposed to be under the Home Affairs, under the Interior Ministry of Interior in Nigeria. It's right, but the technical aspects can be contracted out or work with the Ministry of Communication and Innovation. So it's okay. And as I said, the harmonization of the identification system should be done as quickly as possible, so that we can have one identity card. That if you want to register your kid in the school, you want to go to the hospital, if you want to go for social grant, and also on the palliative we are talking about. This palliative we are talking about shouldn't be once off. It should be something that is there permanently, because there are some people that we still need the government assistance, all through their life. We have people that cannot work, people that are disabled, people that are, lost their job suddenly, and for them to go into crime, they need to be taken care of. The palliative is a continuum. It's not something that we should do, once or twice and we forget about it. We started it and we must find a way to maintain it. We are not destitute people, but the thing is that we have people that will need this thing, as time goes on. And the data is very important to know the people that need this thing.
Okay, so I have to rename it from being palliatives, which is a temporary fix. But I still want to come back to you, Kabir, on that matter, because with the National Identity Management Commission under the Interior Ministry, does tie it with, the question of who a Nigerian is, knowing who carries the green passport, and be certain of who is actually a bona fide citizen of this country. So many times we heard that a large percentage of those who carried out criminal activities, including the insurgency, were non-Nigerians from neighboring countries, and it was difficult given the borders. So what's your take on that?
I think it's a bold move, and one that should be encouraged by all Nigerians. I know under the past administration there were attempts to harmonize our data, national data, but unfortunately it didn't come to fruition. This strategic move of placing NIMSI under the Ministry of Interior, I think would allow that. Let's not forget that the Ministry of Interior is one of the sectors, as it were, that has this large repository of data. You've talked about the immigration, the role that the immigration does in the collection of data on Nigerians and aliens as well. Let's not forget that the civil defense, NSCDC, is also under Ministry of Interior. The custodial center is also Ministry of Interior. So it does have a large repository of data that can feed into this objective by the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration to harmonize our existing data. So yes, it's a bold move. And then from the point of view of security, the role played by NIMSI and the other organizations that have supported this collection and harmonization of data, when, I can't remember the exact year, but when the US put a ban on visa issuance to Nigeria as a result of that data. Now that institutional memory is carried to the Ministry of Interior, and hopefully it would also allow the Ministry of Interior see the correlation, as it were, between data and national security. When persons who are not Nigerians, and this is something that may be out in the public or not, I'm not sure. We've had instances where persons who are not Nigerians come into Nigeria, collect our passport, use that passport to commit crime in several parts of the world, and they are seen as Nigerians. Because one of the easiest ways to show your nationality is your national passport. If you have a national passport that says you are Nigerian, when in reality you are not Nigerian. So all of these things hopefully will be checked if we achieve the harmonization of the national data. One point that we haven't spoken about that I would quickly want to mention is the need for the leaders themselves to look at themselves. Part of what we hear from Nigerians is, you are asking us to make sacrifices. What sacrifices are you making? So I think it's absolutely important. 100 days have passed, but in the coming days, the leaders would also need to demonstrate and show sacrifices. It is not ethical, I'm using this word carefully, that you still see convoys of our leaders, in large convoys moving about. The type of large, living that we see among our leaders, in particular the National Assembly. I think it's absolutely important that they demonstrate and show consciousness that Nigerians are making sacrifices, and there are several ways where they can show those sacrifices. Because when you are making decisions and implementing decisions, and you've not demonstrated to the person that is the recipient of that decision that you yourself are making that sacrifice, then sadly it's only a matter of time before we see a reaction, and we don't want that to happen.
Okay, let's take that straight onto the political front and even come to Ali on this matter as well. So it's just been raised. A number of these measures are being put in place to turn things around and give the economy the much needed shot in the arm, especially in difficult times, in the face of even global harsh economic realities. But as Kabiru said, people are saying, look, let us also see from the leaders that it's not you tighten the belt, which is almost severing a torso, and you're growing fat. What do you say?
I think it's important, you see, because everything begins with the optics. Because perception to some people is reality. And the perception, the optics right now are not favorable to those who are calling the shot at the very top. They live in, some of them have, like you make this example, beginning with, if you like, an ostentatious lifestyle. You cannot, for example, ask me to make sacrifice only to have for you to have continue to have a lavish lifestyle. And sometimes in your face kind of thing. And the ordinary people are watching. If you look at those who ask ordinary folks to make sacrifice, some of them are not making that sacrifice privately or in public. And sometimes they make occasional gaffes in full glare of public. And their diction and their attitude, their verbal communication, I think they need a lot of handling there.
Right.
Yeah, they need to be more mindful of the existing tough economic condition of the ordinary people.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we're gradually getting to the end of this program, but let me bring this aspect on board. Within these 100 days, President Tinubu has become chairman of ECOWAS. And within these 100 days, a lot has happened on the landscape, both within the West African region and even Central Africa. And of course, we know one of the biggest issues on the continent today is the question of the number of coups that have taken place and the stance of Nigeria. Has the president within these 100 days shown the kind of leadership that Nigerians and the world would expect him to?
Yes, he has, in a way, done that. First, as ECOWAS chairman, he has demonstrated that leadership, especially given, like you said, this resurgence of unconstitutional taking over of government. He has maintained a very tough stand, and I think it's important for that, so that he sends a warning. But then you look at it also, the existing variables in some of these nation states that have suffered democratic setback. Why this democratic rollback? People are asking that question. Sometimes people look at the effect, they don't look at the causes. Sometimes what's happening domestically actually some people say that I don't support any unconstitutional takeover of government. But then when you have leaders who have severally amended the constitution to accommodate more terms and then shut out the opposition. What happened in 2021 or 2020 in Mali, in Gabon, and recently in Gabon and in Guinea? Then local variables there. And thankfully, most of these nation states that have suffered democratic setback has to do with the persuasion or the orientation of the armed forces there. I'm not much of an expert there, but I'm sure Kabiru can throw more light there. The armed forces of these countries, how they see themselves. They see themselves as actually stakeholders in the democratic process, given their own orientation, as opposed to Anglophone countries. Yes.
Right, yes.
There are, first about the leadership position that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has taken in ECOWAS. I think it's absolutely important. It has upped his profile. It's also given him the pedestal to launch a campaign, as it were, that a lot of people can relate to. Don't forget, in his inaugural speech, after he was elected the chairman, he restated his commitment to democracy, and sadly, a few days after that commitment was tested when there was a coup in Niger. Learning points, how the reaction to the coup in Niger and what has come of it, I think learning points for the government. At the time it happened, there was no Minister of Foreign Affairs. Now we have a Minister of Foreign Affairs. I'm hoping that a step back has been taken and they've reviewed some of their actions. Other things that I think are absolutely important, and I think the point was made earlier on by Prof, the effects of geopolitics and international developments. We were here when COVID-19 started, and for a lot of us it was in China. It's not going to have an impact in Nigeria. All of a sudden we had a pandemic in our hands, and then for about 10 days a lot of people could not move around, and for 2 years we're still reeling from the effects of that. But what point am I making? The parameters, the tools for understanding and analyzing this development and taking steps, in fact, before they even occur, which are intelligence tools, I think need to be strengthened. Niger happened because, in my opinion, there was a colossal failure of intelligence. We can't have a neighbor that, frankly, is almost like a state in Nigeria with occurrences like that without us having the capability to foresee it and then take measures. So we need to look, point I'm trying to make, let's strengthen our foreign service capabilities. It is a learning point from this 100 days that we need to take into the rest of the period that this administration will be. Luckily, appointments have not been made in that sector, apart from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, so there is still room for improvement in that area.
All right, thanks a lot. And quickly to go over to Lagos now, and we will round off in a bit with a return to the economy and the drive by this government for foreign direct investment, saying that yes, we are a stable country, we have relatively stable policies we're putting in place, so you can come and invest. As a matter of fact, the president has gone to the G20 summit with a sizable number of the business community. So let's go to Lagos. Engineer Babarinde, what's your take on that, on attracting investors, wooing those who should come in and invest in this country?
Cyril, you know, the best way for a foreign company or foreign individual to invest in your country is stability of your economy and stability of the system. And it just mentions what happened within West Africa in terms of coup and stuff like that. I will never support military action, because what you cannot solve diplomatically, you cannot solve it with military. Even if you fight for 100 years, you still settle your matter on the round table. So why not pursue the round table? No matter how long it is, you are still going to get it. Because if you fight, the Ukraine and Russia, at the end of the day, they go somewhere, maybe Geneva, they agree on truce, and they finish there. Whereas they've killed a lot of souls. So nothing, I will not support anything military. But there's nothing dialogue cannot achieve. So if we do that, our country will be safe. There won't be war, investor will come. But if we try and engage in Niger or Gabon, Nigeria is at war. Nobody will come and invest. We should write that one off, And another thing is that we should try as much as possible to manage our finance properly, our forex properly. The frustration is too much. From 200 to 400 now to 700. Something must be done, fast on that. And the way we can do that is by manufacturing, by production, to make sure that we export, we get more forex. We're going to have solid mineral, we invest more in solid mineral. And also another thing is that in sport, we can export, a lot of our talent, our music, we can get, it's not only on the solid mineral, even our doctors. If we have a way to train a lot more doctors, then we supply our doctors too. If we have enough back home, why not? It's human resources. Because some people say we train even our engineers. We can supply them to the world. Like the Chinese does now. So we need to make sure that not only when people say you should you should get forex. It's not about selling oil or solid mineral. We can also sell services. We can also sell talent. We can sell even our culture. We can use it. When you have a cultural team go travel abroad. They collect dollars, they collect pound sterling, they bring back home. So many ways we can get this thing. We just have to open up. All the ministry must be generating ministry. They must generate their own fund. All the ministry. Not just taking from the government. They generate, they use part of the money for their operation, then something back to the revenue, federal allocation or the state allocation. State pos. So we need to concentrate on generating, and to encourage people from outside, the diaspora know what to do. And also, most of our ambassadors, they are not doing us well. Because they go there as more or less like ceremonial. Because you go to them for things that are just simple, that when you could take for example South Africa now, look at the trade imbalance. It's about 80 to 20. Now in South Africa, if you have a salon or barber salon or hairdressing and a small shop food stuff, they will, they discourage you. Whereas they have MTN, they have DSTV, multi-choice, and all this in Nigeria. So we need.
Yes, speaking of your diplomats, of course, one of the moves that took place within these 100 days was the recall of all Nigeria's ambassadors and high commissioners, except 2, of course, as we learned. So, but we'd like to thank you very much for being part of this discussion tonight. Thank you so very much, Engineer Bola Babarinde, Pioneer Chairman of APC South Africa, and Tinubu Shetima Presidential Campaign Council Diaspora Directorate. We thank you for joining this conversation. You joined from our Lagos Network Center. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
And we go quickly to Professor Kenife, who's in London. In just 2 minutes, Prof, the President is in India with a considerable number of entrepreneurs and, as they say, the big wigs in business, Nigerians, who are out there and, exploring opportunities of collaboration. What are your final thoughts in just 2 minutes?
Well, first of all, he already put food security in the state of emergency. We're going to be looking for investors. He's already identified solid mineral and projects 50% of GDP. He's going to be looking for investors. Then we have Murphy, Ministry of Finance Incorporated, which is now there to sweat our dormant assets and then to us to find liquidity from existing assets. All of that will require, briefly, that the issue around Niger is more than, he is the chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State. He's not acting in his capacity as president of Nigeria. We have to understand that he is leading a continental and a regional force. There are risks that nobody wants to talk about. There is a risk of genocide, like in Rwanda. There is a risk of ethnic cleansing. There's a risk of conflagration in Niger, like in Sudan, because all the superpowers are there. China is there, Russia is there, America is there, France is there. There's so many risks that unless a credible force is presented, then all these people will now come in and blow up the place. So that's not what we want. So he's making the right decision. He's acting in his capacity as the chair of a regional heads of states, and we have to give it a chance. If you don't have credible force, they will not come to the table to talk. And now they're talking, and I think we're going to get results. But there must be a credible force.
All right. So thank you so very much, Professor Kenife, development economist, who joined us via Zoom from London. We thank you for being part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
And back here in Abuja, sincere thanks to Dr. Kabiru Adamo, Security, Risk Management and Intelligence Specialist. We thank you so much.
And thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Ali M. Ali, political analyst, it's always a pleasure to have you join us.
Well, it was good to be here again.
Thank you. And thank you too for being part of this program. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Continue to stay safe.